Hello, Movie Mavens. Welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey, and I put the B in movies. So, the first thing up top, I want to apologize. I don't know what's happening with the streakiness over here. I fiddled with my ring light for so long. I don't know what's happening, so I apologize in advance for this nonsense. And then, secondly, I hope you're having a great week. I am having a pretty good week. But to get into the Bailey Babbles right up top, I am a perfectionist. And I am one of those people where it's partially being a Leo, it's partially wanting to take pride in the things I do, and which, again, also ties into being a Leo if you believe in astrology. And it's an anxiety thing too. And so I did something yesterday and I am so in my head about it. And it's one of those things where I can't tell if, you can't tell if something went as badly as you think it did, or if it's just an anxiety thing and it was nowhere near the caliber that you think so in your head. So that's how my morning's going, is I'm just like, I've been dwelling since yesterday afternoon on something, and I'm like, did that go as badly as I think it did? Am I in my head? So I am a nice little ball of anxiety and overthinking, which, is basically my brand. So this one goes out to all of my anxiety BBs, all of my overthinkers, all of my perfectionists, all of my people that get in their head. I hear you, I see you, I am one of you. And so I am just hoping that it was in my head and that this is just one of those times that I'm just overthinking everything in my life, which happens all the time. So that's where we are for the Bailey Babbles. I hear you, I see you, and I'm just trying to, as we talked about a few videos ago, I'm trying to just remember that the universe has my back and we're gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So that's my Bailey Babbles for today, is just remember to take a deep breath, remember that some things are out of your control, and to be sure to remember that some things are in your head. Sometimes bad things happen and you misstep, right? But just a reminder, take a breath in, breath out, and we're all gonna be okay. So let's go ahead and hop into our blog roundup for the day. So this week over on the B Movies blog, if you're like, what's the B Movies blog? And you're new here, first of all, hi, hello. Second of all, the B Movies channel is just a continuation of the B Movies blog. So we talk about blogs from the B Movies blog. We do the Bite Size Sunday teaser here, deep dives. We talk about, in our special feature section, we do updates on our favorite analog horror series, horror ARGs, and just talk about things that I may not necessarily write a piece about, but I still want to talk about, as well as our subtitles, where we talk about different little pieces of pop culture news from around the internet. So, first up with our blog roundup, this week over on the B Movies blog, where you can find pieces every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. As I always say, WordPress and I sometimes get a little bit into it, because if you work with WordPress, you know that she can sometimes be a very fickle mistress and just does not push things out when you have scheduled them. But it should always be on around 10 a.m. CT. I sometimes just have to nudge her a little bit. But this week over on the B Movies blog, on Monday we talked about my favorite rom-coms. I tend to, as a lot of you know, be very cynical and harsh towards rom-coms. Even though I do watch them, I do enjoy them. And so I decided to give y'all some of my favorites so that you don't think that I am just anti-rom-com. On Tuesday, we talked about fake streamer movie genres that should exist. This comes from an old episode of At Midnight with Chris Hardwick, which is your friendly reminder he is garbage. Used to host, now it's Taylor Tomlinson, I think, hosts At Midnight now. She's great. But there was this category where it was new Netflix genres, and Ricky Lindholm said Keira Knightley weeping in a corset. It made me laugh very hard. Jonah Ray Rodriguez also said um, movies that don't hold up, which is very funny. And so I've always wanted to do something with this, and so I decided this week was the week. On Wednesday, we talked about shows that were canceled too soon. Y'all know, especially in the age of streamers, shows that even perform well and have a big following are getting the axe. So I just wanted to talk about some of my favorites that have gotten the chop recently. On Thursday, we talked about commercials from the 90s and the early to mid 2000s. That's when I grew up because I'm in my early 30s, and so I had a lot of fun with this piece, just revisiting those. Found out that I still know all the words to that Pepsi jingle, so I hope that you have fun watching those commercials and talking about those commercials with me. And then today, you can find another edition of Lights, Camera, Albums. Again, y'all always seem to really love these, and I love doing them, and Elliot loves editing them. So we will keep on rolling with them. And in honor of Billie Eilish's new album, which we will talk about in special features, I decided to do a Lights, Camera, Album on Billie's first album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And so that will also be our deep dive today. So yeah, so just to recap, over on the B Movies blog this week, my favorite rom-coms, fake streamer genres, shows that were canceled too soon, commercials from the 90s and 2000s, and a Lights Camera album for Billie Eilish's When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? So next up, let's do our Bite Size Sunday teaser. Again, if you're new, Bite Size Sundays are little mini reviews that live over on Instagram. I usually post them around 8 or 9 CST, just first thing Sunday morning. And they consist of things I want to talk about, but I don't necessarily think constitute their own piece. And so you can only get the teaser here on YouTube. It's a perk of being subscribed. And you can only get those reviews on our Instagram, which is just at bmovies channel, same as our YouTube. So this week's hint is someone call Alice in Chains because we have a man in a box. So get excited. I feel like as another teaser, this has been something we have technically talked about before. So I'm very excited to continue the conversation around this story. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into today's deep dive, which is the Lights, Camera album for Billie Eilish's When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And if you're new around here, Lights, Camera albums are it's a series that we do over on the B Movies blog where I take an album and go track by track and assign each track with a movie. So for When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? It's very similar to Miley Cyrus's Plastic Hearts, which is another LCA that we did, in that there are a lot of really big horror aspects, right? And like in a lot of the music videos for these, there are horror components. And so a lot of the movies that I chose are horror films just because that's the overall vibe of this album to me. So for Bad Guy, I chose the movie Fear because when I was re-listening to this album for Lights, Camera album, I usually listen through a couple times when I'm writing the piece. I thought of Margot's character, who's played by Alyssa Milano, in the movie Fear, because Margot has a very rough and complicated home life. She has a lot going on, and so she's kind of like a bad girl, but it's not all her fault. And so I think of it, I think of this song like being sung when Margot is like trying to warn Nicole, who's played by Reese Witherspoon, about David, who's played by Brian Wahlberg, but Reese Witherspoon's kind of like brushing her off. So I think that these two work really well together. For Zanny, I have Bodies, 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 because B, who's Maria Bakalova, is kind of thrown into this world, right, of like this very privileged world, this partying world, and she's from an entirely different type of background. And so the lyrics that really drove this pairing home for me were, they're nothing but unstable, bring ashtrays to the table, and that's about the only thing they share. I just really thought of the friend group from Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Next up, You Should See Me in a Crown is Immaculate. I think the song is perfect to represent Cecilia, or Sister Cecilia, who's played by Sydney Sweeney. she goes from this like very timid and reserved, nun who's about to take her vows to this like badass, vengeful final girl in less than 90 minutes. And I see kind of the first verse of the song representing Cecilia. She like bides her time waiting to escape and starts planning her way out. And then the rest of the song represents her harrowing escape and how she just has that final girl transformation. Next up, we have All the Good Girls Go to Hell as Late Night with the Devil. I know that Jack Delroy obviously identifies as a man, but I think that the sentiment remains the same because, Jack sacrifices his wife for his career. Whether he really like thought that was going to happen or not, that's what happened. Is he fully chose his career over his own wife, and now it's time to pay that price. That the piper's come a calling. And this could also work in regards to June, who's played by Laura Gordon, because she's sincerely trying to do the right thing, but she gets caught up in Jack's quest for success. And so it's almost for her like a wrong place, wrong time, giving into peer pressure thing. So that's what made me think of these two as little friends. Next up, we have Wish You Were Gay as Jennifer's Body. So I want to address, I know this song is problematic because, like obviously you shouldn't speculate on people's sexuality. It's not right to be like, well, I wish that you weren't attracted to me so that way, like, I could justify what was happening. It's problematic. I recognize that. So I paired this one with Jennifer's Body because Needy, Amanda Seyfried, and Jennifer Megan Fox, their relationship is very complicated. Jennifer has treated Needy like crap for a long time. And I think this song works on two levels because Needy wishes Jennifer wouldn't make her second string or like string her along. And also there is a romantic component to their relationship. It's very toxic. It's a toxic friendship. It's a toxic relationship. But there is a little bit of a romantic aspect there. And so the wish you were gay part to me kind of is less of a literal wish you were gay and more so like I wish we could be together because, like it's very clear Jennifer never thinks Needy will leave her. And then for a long time, Jenny doesn't want to leave Jennifer / never has that strength to find her own voice and her own like inner final girl. And so I just think the song works really well with that movie. So next up we have When the Party's Over. I put as Fear Street Part 1, 1994. This was one of the first pairings that I did. I think Dina is in such like who's played by Kiana Madeira, I believe is how you say her last name. I apologize if that's incorrect. Y'all know that I get in my head about how to pronounce things all the time because my brain moves so much faster than my mouth. So like, I trip myself up a lot. I think this really represents her mentality at the beginning of the Fear Street trilogy. And she's, reeling how things with Sam, who's played by Olivia Scott Welch, ended. The party being over in their case is more metaphorical because it's their relationship. And, Sam's mom really isn't okay with Sam dating a girl. And I just see this as the beginning, like when, Dina's walking through the halls. That's where I see this song. Next up, we have 8 as Midsummer. And so I'll admit, this one may be one of those ones where you're like, Bailey, I don't see it, but hear me out. So Jack, who's played by, Christian, who's played by Jack Rayner, is a gaslighting POS to Danny, played by Florence Pugh. We know this. And all she's trying to do is, like, cope with this horrible trauma and this horrible grief she's trying to go through because her entire family has been unalived by her sister and who unalived herself. And so she just tries to put on this brave front and be agreeable and be this, perfect supportive girlfriend and put all of her feelings aside. And, just for him to cheat on her. He's also horrible to his friends. He steals one of his friends' thesis ideas. And so I can see the song coming from Danny's POV, especially with the lyrics like, I know you're not sorry, why should you be? Because who am I to be in love when your love never is for me? And I feel like that's a big sentiment of Danny's, because she's like, oh no, you have nothing to apologize for, because like you never loved me, and like I know that, and that's fine, and it's just trying to find this comfort and familiarity. And so next up we have My Strange Addiction, which this to me was the biggest connection with Plastic Hearts, because when we talked about Plastic Hearts, we talked about how that album to me really just like reeked of vampires and vampirism and like lycanthropy and just, creatures of the night. So I originally put Swallow for this movie, but I thought it was way too on the nose, because I was like, that's an actual strange addiction, and I wanted to be a little bit more artsy in my analysis. And so I use the strange addiction as like vampirism, like turning into a vampire. And my joke is, what better way to kill two addictions with one stone than to pair this with From Dusk Till Dawn, because you get vampires and Quentin Tarantino's foot love, because I don't think I can say that other word on YouTube. So next up we have Bury a Friend as Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. And I think these two songs are like a match made in heaven, or in this case, hell. So you have Kristen, who's played by Patricia Arquette, Nancy, who's obviously played by Heather Langenkamp. They have to band together to defeat Freddy, because he is just picking off these kids one by one. And I think this song, in my head, if there's ever a Nightmare on Elm Street musical, which would be dope, this could be an ensemble song, because there's so many layers to Bury a Friend, and I think this would work really well. Next up, we have ILO, MILO. I always forget if there's like an actual name for it. I just always say the letters as Come True. If you know me at all, you'll know I'll find a chance to talk about the movie Come True whenever I can. And fortunately, there's actually a good reason to bring it up in this case, because Sarah, who's played by Julia Sarah Stone, she's trapped in this world that we find out is a world of her own making. And so I see this song coming in at the end when she realizes that she's actually alone, and that she's just like in this comatose state, and they're trying to wake her up. Next up we have Listen Before I Go as Tamara. And so this song, CWTW for SI, like this song has a very dark connotation. Like, please know when I do these pairings, I never mean to make light of this content. That's not what I'm doing. And so it just made me think of Tamara's mindset in the film. Tamara also ends on a rooftop, and so I just really feel like this song captures a lot of what she probably was feeling as she was exacting her revenge and before. I put I Love You as Planet Terror. I just rewatched Planet Terror recently, so it was another really easy pairing for me, and I think it goes really well with Cherry, who's played by Rose McGowan, and Ray, who's Freddie Rodriguez. I just really think it encapsulates their relationship, because they reunite and have this passionate, brief love affair, only to have their love struck down in its prime. And then last for Goodbye is Raw. This song is kind of like a reprise of sorts. Reprise? I say reprise. I have heard it both ways. I don't know. It's like your big melody at the end. But for some reason, it just reminded me of Raw, because Justine, who's played by Garance Marlier, y'all know who I'm talking about. Even though we know my brain does not work right sometimes. Her thoughts are just racing throughout the movie as she tries to like navigate these new cravings she has. And so I see this song playing either at the end of Raw, when Justine finds out her family secret, or during the party scene. And so that's the Lights Camera albums for this week. I will link all of the pieces that are up on the B Movies channel in the description box below, so all 5 are right there for you. And be sure to subscribe if you want to. You can get those straight to your inbox. So, next up we have special features. And so something up top that I thought would be fun is I want to shout out a few, because I know I've gotten a couple comments before on like some of the clothes that I wear. So I just want to give a shout out to some of my favorite like horror / pop culture merch brands right now. And they're ones that I wear a lot. And they are Fright Rags is great, Terror Threads, Cavity Colors. His store, it used to be Pentagram Peter. If you search that, you'll find it. And Halftone Horror. And so those are the 5 big ones right now that I've been shopping from. But I just wanted to call out some horror shops. Be sure to give them some love. So next up, we have Billie Eilish's Hit Me Hard and Soft. And if I had to describe this album in one word, it would be effortless. Hit Me Hard and Soft sounds like an album I would have stolen from my sister in the late 90s and early 2000s because she's 15 years older than me. It sounds like something she would have been listening to that I would have stolen. I just feel like Billie Eilish is so cool without trying to be cool. I believe that. I think she's very cool. And I would be so bold as to say that this album and Chappell Roan's The Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess like live in the same neighborhood. I really do. I think that they live in the same cul-de-sac. And I think we're definitely going to have to do an LCA on this one as well. That's why we did Billie's first album, just to kind of pay homage to this album coming out. But I really, really like this album, y'all. I really, really do. I think this album has been a good year for pop culture. Or this year has been a good year for pop culture, music-wise, movie-wise. Like, I feel like we are being fed well. And my 3 favorite songs off of this album are The Greatest Lunch and L'amour de ma vie. Those are my top 3 right now. Obviously, that changes as I listen to it. But yeah, definitely give this a listen. If you haven't, I think it's great. So now to switch tones for a moment. Even though I just said we have been fed well. Okay. So I saw Back to Black, and I've just got to get all this off my chest because I hated this movie so much. Like, just to be very honest. And I was originally going to make this a bite-sized Sunday, but I'm so riled up about this movie that I have to talk about it here and now. So, I love Amy Winehouse. I love her music. She's one of the reasons I started dyeing my hair black in high school. It was her, and as embarrassing as it is, it was Katy Perry, but I need y'all to remember that this was one of the boys' Katy Perry. So this was like height of Katy Perry. Like I still think One of the Boys is an amazing pop album. And at one point, I had a pixie cut, and I dyed my bangs blonde to, like, match the blonde streak that Amy, like, I loved Amy Winehouse. She inspired a lot of my style in high school, like, you get the picture. She's a very special place in my heart, because Back to Black came out when I was in high school. So, I knew this movie was going to be bad. But I was not prepared to be as riled up as I was. So, first and foremost, and I'm going to say everything here is alleged, it is my opinion, nobody come for me. Based on the documentary and just things I have seen, I believe there are times Mitch Winehouse exploited and enabled his daughter. And again, everything is alleged, this is just my opinion. However, in this movie, he's portrayed in a completely different light. He's like this doting, caring father, and I'm not saying he didn't care about his daughter. That is not what I'm saying. But I am saying that I think a lot of things are left out. Variety did a really good article about this where, like, the title was like, the Amy Winehouse movie doesn't like Amy Winehouse very much, and I agree. I believe it gives all of these men in her life a lot of credit and a lot of leeway. And Amy Winehouse was not perfect. No one is perfect. I'm not trying to put her on a pedestal. That is not what I'm saying. But I am saying that there's this weird tone that's very apologetic towards all of the men in her life that I find very odd. That's just me. That is my opinion. That is alleged. Additionally, I feel like there are times where Amy and Blake's relationship is glamorized and almost feels rom-com-y at the beginning. And their relationship was toxic from the start. He was dating an entirely different person and led her on at the beginning. I also think it's kind of weird because it seems like they try to weave song lyrics into the dialogue, and like I understand she drew inspiration from her real life, and I might be wrong, I obviously was not there, but I don't believe, like, for example, Blake's like sleazy best friend said something like, if I were a betting man, and I am, which is a variation of a line from Love is a Losing Game. I don't think that's how it happened. And like then Amy somehow heard that from miles away and then like put it in a song. Also, some of the editing choices are really wild. I don't understand. And then finally, like, there are parts of this movie that feel like an after school special or a very special episode of Saved by the Bell. And it's just how some of the addiction stuff is handled. It's just weird. So I do want to give props to Marisa Abella though, because she genuinely sings, which is rare in a music biopic, and I think she does the absolute best with what she can. It's clear she's talented. I think this is going to be a Kaylee Spaney situation where, like, I hated Priscilla, but I thought she was wonderful in Civil War. I think Marisa Abella can act really well, and I think that her performance within this movie was as good as it could be, and I really want to see the next movie she's cast in because I have a feeling like it will be a Kaylee Spaney situation where she was great in Civil War. So, TLDR, I think Amy Winehouse, in my opinion, allegedly deserves better than this movie, and I'd say watch Amy the documentary instead. That if I had to sum it up. So now that I've officially talked about it, I can move forward. But I'm like, I just needed to vent to all of you, my friends, to talk about it. So the last thing I have for special features today is the YouTube channel We Hate Popcorn But Eat It Anyway. So I discovered this channel from a Bloody Disgusting post, I believe, but I want to talk about it because I think it's a really cool concept where they've been using AI to create these like Panasonic movie trailers that are set in like the 40s and the 50s in different locations for things like Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street and Hellraiser, and they're really cool. And so I know that I tend to be anti-AI in a lot of cases, but I do think this is a really cool concept and idea. And I'll link their channel below so you can watch them. They have several up. They just did an American Psycho one, and I just think it's really cool. So be sure to subscribe to them and watch their videos. So, last up, we have subtitles. And I do, like I said I would follow up about the Jason Universe stuff. I still don't fully know. I don't know if they know what all this means. To me, it unfortunately just sounds like, allegedly in my opinion, that they just want to milk the IP for everything it's worth and they're going to like release a bunch of merch and stuff. I personally think that they just threw out a bunch of word salad, and that's what it boils down to, is that they're basically just going to kind of milk this for everything it's worth. That's what I think. Maybe we'll get some cool content out of it, but that's kind of what I'm taking away and what I'm seeing. So next up, Cillian Murphy will reply. Is it Cillian or Killian? Because I've heard, this is another one I've heard both. So we're going to say Cillian. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Cillian Murphy will not only reprise his role from 28 Days Later in 28 Years Later, but he will also executive produce the film, which I'm very excited for this upcoming trilogy. The first look of Return to Silent Hill has been released with a picture of Pyramid Head. I'm very excited because I feel like this movie's been stuck in development hell forever, because I know that I've personally keep having to take it off and on the what's on like our content calendar over on the bmovies blog. So I'm glad to see like there's actually some headway being made there. Donald Glover announced that his final Childish Gambino album will be out this summer. Tickets for his upcoming tour are now on sale. Not sure what those are looking like, but you can get tickets. Netflix has renewed Three Body Problem for another season. I'm stoked. I loved the first season. If you haven't watched it, highly recommend it. We even did a Bite Size Sunday about it. It's great. Neon has picked up the adaptation of Stephen King's The Monkey from James Wan and Osgood Perkins. Super stoked for that because again, I'm Long Legs is one of my is one of my like most anticipated film releases for this summer. Like the fact that we get that and Maxine, and like the fact that we get so much horror this summer is just chef's kiss. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, the Soska sisters have announced American Mary is going to become a television series, and I freaking love that movie. So I am so stoked, and I will keep y'all posted. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. So let's go ahead to wrap it up. Follow me on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Follow Elliot at reading.with.red. She just posted another B Movies Book Club recommendation that's actually a 2-in-1, so be sure to check that out over on our Instagram. Follow us on our Instagram at B Movies Channel, just same as our YouTube. That's where Bite Size Sundays live, and we post daily, so you know the pieces that are coming out daily. We do a blog roundup like we do here on Fridays over there as well. Be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed. It is free. Be sure to give us a like if you feel so inclined, and a comment if you're feeling frisky. So I think that will do us for today. So all that's left to do is fade to black.